I believe anyone embarked on consulting or espousing theories or strategies and tactics for success must have their biases, their filters, their aptitudes and attitudes very carefully scrutinized. You saw something about my aptitudes, a whole bunch of them, but it's all about the past. It really doesn't mean as much. I've covered virtually every aspect of the entertainment business for more than a third of a century. But as to attitude, the other word, the longer I live, the more I recognize it's everything. The impact of attitude is more important than those facts, than past, education, money, failures, or even what people think of me. I'm convinced life is 10% of what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it. Having said that, I'm not sure about framing the correct questions of what it takes to assist and support and consult to you, let alone the answers. Because I think questions are everything. They're the most unique part of the equation. Consider in a worldwide survey done recently by the UN, the central question asked was, quote, would you please give your honest opinion about solutions to the food shortage in the rest of the world? The survey was a huge failure. In much of Africa, they didn't know what food meant. In much of Eastern Europe, they didn't know what honest meant. In Western Europe, they didn't know what shortage meant. In China, they didn't know what opinion meant. And in my country, they didn't know what the rest of the world meant. You don't frame the right question, you're not going to get the right answer. Freeman Dyson, Professor Nobel Prize winner and Professor Emeritus at Princeton University, said in his thesis on decision making, questions are the heart of it. You must ask high quality questions. You must be curious instead of critical. It's not key, it's not good to assert your superiority over the questioner or the questionnaire. Because really what you're asserting is your ego. Rather remain curious about it. What can that question tell you? The shift I made that made all the difference for me is when I'm faced with a problem is not what is the problem asking me, what answer am I supposed to give, but what is the problem telling me that helps me form my response? And you have to take a pause. You can't just hear, you've got to listen. You've got to really think about what's being said. So in formulating my views today, my concepts is look at the underpinnings, the way I see business human technologies emerge that support the quality of your experience, the likelihood of your success, and look at the environment the way it really is. I can't tell you how to be successful. I can only share with you some of my tools and some of my resources and resourcefulness that have guided me in my process, and look at some of the larger forces that are at work that will determine what the landscape will look like. Because everybody in a company, everybody in an institution, everybody in every environment, in family, has a different view of what success is. They all want to be happy, but what's success? It's in the eye of the beholder. Even in a company working on things together, everybody has a different view of what success will mean. Is it money? Is it power? Is it ego? Is it greed? Is it glory? What is it? At age 4, success is not peeing in your pants. At age 12, success is having friends. At age 16, success is having a driver's license. At age 20, success is having sex. At age 35, success is having money. At age 50, success is having a lot of money. At age 60, success is having sex. At age 70, success is having a driver's license. At age 75, success is having friends. And at age 80, success is not peeing in your pants. So I can't tell you what to dream or what your dreams are, or what success you are, or how to be happy. I just can share with you my dialogue inside of me and how I move to that tune. The metric of success is a daunting question. Most incumbents in companies, what do? They look to the past to define the future. People all over are retreating from the future. They're convulsed by all the 9/11s and the toxicity in the world. But being able to embrace the future with a new architecture, a new design plan, will be crucial to any success that you define as success. Success depends on your boldness to embrace it. Don't, and it will be your death. If you compare the attitude about learning of one's impending death and the attitudes of top executives facing cataclysmic change, very similar. First, you have denial and isolation, anger and bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. Because when you're on the heels in your company or in your career, and you're in that mode, you cannot possibly succeed. And in this environment, the environment that we're living in today, the economy is going to be moving in ever faster cycles of change. And to survive, let alone succeed, it will require more imagination and greater daring do. The center, as we know it, will never hold, and things will end. We see it every day in the paper, in the news, 11 o'clock news. We thought we had it all figured out, and then things end. The late Carl Sagan and I developed a film called Contact. And he was musing about what he thought would be the Achilles heel of the thinkers and futurists in the 21st century and the people that were politically empowered to make the changes. And he said the greatest challenge, he thought, was their inability to seek, or their necessity to seek certainty and not embrace change. To be certain. My business acumen states to me that once you try to be absolutely certain and once you avoid change, you're on the road to ruin. In our uncertain times, the alchemy of success is providing successful leadership to yourself, that discourse with yourself and with your colleagues and your company and even your competitors. It's a different environment. It requires a skill set that embraces change with an entirely different attitude. There's that word again. A different attitude requires a completely different architecture of thinking. So I developed in my life some tools that would help me navigate in those experiences that I had in all these different companies and different environments and different businesses that I engaged in. And I knew that as soon as I was back in the pack, as soon as I was trying to draft behind the leader, and as soon as I was trying to see what the guy in front might do and what my competitor or collaborator did before, I was in trouble. Because if you're not the lead dog, the view never changes. You're always looking at that same thing. So you got to decide to get out in front. It bears risk, but that's the only place you want to live. And risk and fear go together. Those two four-letter words embody the feelings we have when we deal with change. You know, if you're not going to confront them with attitude and aptitude, then you're going to have another four-letter word, which will be an epitaph under your breath for a long time. And that mantra sets you off in a different path. You have to remember, without risk, you can't reinvent, you can't change, you can't lean forward, you can't make the quantum and geometric and exponential leaps that business today requires to be successful. Yes, fear is an important component in that. I'm feared all the time. I get frightened before I come out here. I get frightened in my work. But I recognize that fear is not going to be paralyzing me. It's going to be catalyzing me. It's telling me I'm on the edge, that I can fail, and I have failed. Fear, F-E-A-R. As I said, that 90-10 rule. False evidence appearing real. Most of the shit you're frightened of never happens, but you spend a year worrying about it. It paralyzes all your other creative efforts. It convulses you. You can't let that happen. You have to recognize it's there and then utilize it.